Okay, ma'am, question?
I have one comment to the congressman, and that's based on the court order for SoCalGas to relocate within 24 to 72 hours. Just to let you know, we have no way of knowing how to report violations of that. I know personally that I'm a case in which that was violated. So I don't know if there's anything you could do to help us know how to report those violations. So that's one. That's just a comment to let you know that the court order has been violated. We just don't know how to report it. With respect to all of you, I want to thank you for your patience in trying to help our community come to understand what's going on within our community. To thank you for your time, because I know that you guys all must be exhausted, because we're pretty exhausted. But the question I have, the world is watching California, the world is watching Porter Ranch. We know that, we see that in the reports from Scientific America, reports in Finland, everywhere. And we know that there's state-of-the-art technology out there in other countries that are not using below-the-ground wells that were intended to be used for oil or some other purpose. They are using designated storage units that were intended above ground for gas purposes only. And because they're above ground, they're able to address any types of leaks more rapidly. I know that you can't just shut off the gas, and because it's not just our little tiny town that's going to be impacted. There's a lot of other people that'll be impacted. But we certainly can consider the fact that with each well that's identified to be old, that you build a well above ground or storage above ground that is state-of-the-art and can accommodate things much better than the archaic technology that we're using now. We shouldn't be using something from the dinosaur age. There's no reason to.
Thank you.
Well, I think that's one subject that will be explored in that sort of broad look at the future viability of underground storage fields. Can the gas, one, how much natural gas do we need in the future? But then two, how can we store gas? So that, I believe, will definitely be considered.
And just, you know, our property values will continue to hemorrhage as long as they're up there. So, and that's not just going to be our property values, that's going to be our ability to get loans. It's going to be the business's ability to open other businesses as well. So while I totally get that you can't just shut it down, as long as they're up there and as long as there's underground wells up there, we're never going to be able to be made whole.
Thank you. Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. Ma'am? Sure. Hold on one second.
It's really important, because it is very important. On the relocation efforts, that's what we took them into court for as well. You have to, if you put a request for relocation, you have a period of time. We've also, on your behalf, impaneled retired judges that you can meet with within 24 hours, and it's a binding decision. If you have extra and ordinary out-of-pocket costs or special needs for relocation, if the gas company or the relocation companies are not responding to your needs, I'm going to give you a phone number as well, and it's 818-700-3600. Also on our city attorney's website, Mike Fear's website, they, since the city attorney spearheaded this as well on our behalf, have listed how to get in touch with all of those and meet with those judges. We also have where you can, in the same day, have an appointment with them online, face-to-face, over the internet, and you can come to our office to do that as well in Chatsworth. So we've set all that up for you as well. So I wanted to answer that woman's question. Thank you. Yeah, the phone number again is, somebody get it? I looked it up. 818-700-3600. I closed my browser. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, ma'am, question.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Nealon. I'm a resident of Renaissance in Porter Ranch. I understand that you're all the experts. This morning, I've listened to all the experts, and I take you at your word. This morning, I woke up to a number of articles online, one of which was commented and noted was the LA Times. There are 2 articles that are on a site called la.curbed.com. There are 2 very specific articles. They're there right now that have very disturbing, detailed information in details about the air, about what is there, what is leaking, and this is leading me to a health question. I'm being told it's okay. I'm being told that the air is fine. I'm being told that the benzene is not a problem and the methane is not a problem. We are still in our home. We've had the filtration units put in. They went in very quickly, and I'm very appreciative for them. But to you, I would like to know 2 things. Number 1, is this information correct in these articles? Because if it is, it doesn't sound like the same answers. 2, to the health point, the methane is what reduces and disperses or takes away the oxygen. Just in the last 2 days, my husband at a medical appointment was told that his blood oxygen level is unusually low. Today, my dog went to a vet appointment. The vet happened to check him unusually low. That tells me, I don't know why, all of a sudden, it's my husband, myself, and 3 dogs, and 2 have an unusually low level of blood oxygen. So I ask you, is the detailed information in these articles accurate? And if it is, I don't think it is safe out there.
Doctor, would you like to speak to that?
If you would give me those articles, I will give them to our independent science panel, and I will take a look at them.
Hold on.
So in all fairness, because we don't have the articles in front of us, it's impossible to say. So what we're trying, what the notion of setting up this independent panel is non-governmental people, experts from around the state. Their names and credentials are online, and the idea of the independent panel is to take all of the information and to provide their own independent assessment. We need to figure out a way to make that public and ultimately potentially interactive for very specific questions. But I think to start responding to the LA curve or curb.
It's la.curbed, curbed.com.
Got it.
And the 2 articles were posted this morning. They both reference Porter Ranch and the gas leak. They have an aerial photograph, and one of them discusses the, quote, partial blowout or the recent failures to close the leak. And the other one is really about the benzene and the methane, and that it is much more dangerous than the gas company is telling us. So I combine all this information together, and then I find out that I have a 7-pound Chihuahua that blood oxygen level is unusually low. I can't keep him in the house. He has to go out. So I want to know, maybe I shouldn't have stayed. Maybe I shouldn't have listened when they said it's okay. So I just want to know, if someone can check these articles, check the facts. If the facts are correct, please tell us.
Would you do me a favor, the lady that's standing right here behind you, give her your contact information, your phone number, and we will follow up on that and get back to you specifically.
Thank you.
But I want to say specifically, always I don't know if it stated the sources of that article, where they found that information, if it described that.
Yes, there are quotes and there are references.
Okay, so great. We'll look that up, but please give the lady behind you your information, and we'll follow up specifically on that.
Okay.
And also share it with the neighborhood council so that others can see it, not just the person who asked the question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Young man.
I have 2 different topics. It's about my fish and my school. I'm first going to talk about my fish. I don't know if it's the gas that's getting to him because he keeps on like laying down on his side, and I think that he's dying. So, like, could the gas be affecting animals too, not just people?
Since we're not medical people, I'm going to turn to our. And
So most toxic chemicals affect animals just like they affect people. So I can't answer the question whether your fish is sick from the gas.
Okay, then about my school. So I'm a 5th grader at Castle Bay, and they had to relocate us to Sunnybray. But I'm kind of wondering if they had 7 air filters, and if they have enough for all the kindergartners, and they have enough for pretty much everybody that needs them, how come they're not giving them to all the schools first? They're giving them to all the parents, and then when all the kids need them most. So that's what I'm kind of
to be
stuck on.
clear, your question is, how would they get the filters to all the schools?
Why don't they?
Why don't they give them to the schools first?
Yes, that's quite a good question. That's a good question.
Sorry, we're having, it's a little bit,
it's,
it's hard to actually hear the questions up here, but the specific question is that the schools don't have air filters that they need, and did you ask why they don't have them first?
Yeah, and
Got it.
also we have 7 air filters, as I said before, but they gave them all to the kindergartners, and I'm thinking if there are 6 grades in our school, they should put all the kindergartners in one classroom and then put all the grades in just one classroom with their own grades, and then just give them 1 air filter in that room.
Well, I would think, you know, that they need to provide enough air filters for all the grades so that the grades don't have to move around. And so if they haven't, that's something we will follow up on immediately.
It just says kind of.
And can I add a quick thing? You're in the 5th grade. If I'm still doing this when you graduate from the 12th grade, come and ask me for a job.
Let's go on. Those are good questions. Thank you. Sir.
You know, I don't think I can follow that.
That's a hard one to follow. Yes, that's true.
It's good to know that our future's in good hands. Good job. Mike Benedetto, Granada Hills South Neighborhood Council. I've talked to many of our stakeholders over the last month or so. I will try and be brief. As a matter of fact, I got some requests even while I was standing in line. But the first one goes to, in relationship to the 115 wells nearby and the 120 more at Susanna Pass, and in addition to all the other wells, you know, it was first brought to the attention by the gas company that, well, when you sell a house, it is mandatory that you put in a safety valve. Why didn't they do that then if it was their idea that they knew we needed to have this?
Let's, Jason, let Jason answer that question. It's a good question.
Is the question, if I follow it correctly, as the houses moved near the wells, why?
No, like houses need these safety valves, the earthquake, the automatic
Why shouldn't the
earthquake
wells?
valves.
sorry. I see.
So he asked, what's the deal with the safety valves? Why not the safety valves in wells?
The safety valve rules, which are going to be the subject of discussion and regulation, I am certain, but the safety valve rules, as of today, safety valves are required at the bottom of the well if the well is within 300 feet of a residence. Obviously, from this situation, we're going to need to re-examine that, but that is a rule that's been on the books for a number of years, and we need to reevaluate it.
No disrespect, we're not talking about the residents, we're actually talking about the safety valves on these hundreds and hundreds of wells. They don't exist, and they should.
And what I'm sorry, I probably wasn't clear enough. The requirement for subsurface safety valves on a well applies when the well is within 300 feet of a residence or other receptor. And that 300-foot threshold is one that I think we need to revisit. And I think it's going to be part of our gas storage regulation requirement revisitation.
Are there any provisions with regards to the wildlife in Lankin Canyon, Cessnon, and whatnot as to their health and well-being?
The requirement for a subsurface safety valve does apply to a well that's within 100 foot of an identified wildlife preserve as well. It's a separate standard, but I believe there's a comment. Go ahead, please.
All right. I'm trying to be brief, honestly. Is there any kind of detector that, it may be too expensive, but the average citizen can purchase to check their own levels?
Own levels of, like
gas emissions and...
got it.
I don't know why, but some people don't trust these readings that we're getting.
Got it. So I would say a couple things. One is, I think I understand your question. The odorants that, of course, are the big problem, added to gas so that if somebody has a normal leak, they can smell the rotten eggs and call the gas company. But what you're asking is, can you actually put up a sort of a data collection device in your yard if you don't, to validate or because you might not trust the data that's being collected? And that may be a question for Richard at ARB about that.
Not my question, but a question.
There are personal monitors for particular substances, like methane, for instance, that some are relatively low cost, some are available. In fact, we will add, I think there's some content on our webpage already, we'll add to it in terms of these types of monitors, what's available, which ones do we actually know about from a quality standpoint, because the quality of these things vary, and what do they monitor for? And I want to make sure that I was clear earlier in terms of coupling this, because it's a really good question, and to me it's interest that a lot of folks have in terms of can I do some monitoring my own home? But what I have asked our folks to do, and I'm hearing the folks here, and I'm hearing the concerns, they're genuine, and I get it, that we've instituted a number of monitoring stations within the community. I've heard some folks say, how about the outlying communities? I want to hear more about that in terms of if there's some areas that aren't well represented and we need to. But the other thing was, and I'm just a firm believer in this, is get that information out to you. So this wasn't do monitoring, collect it, and then no one knows what's going on. This is posted on the website. The locations of those monitors is posted. They're hourly results. Now they're mostly methane. We added a benzene. I'm going to add more. And that's the kind of information I think would be really useful to folks to actually see what's going on really down in the community. But with respect to where your question started, personal monitors, we'll look to add information on that in terms of, so if folks want to pursue, where those monitors are and what they measure.
Okay, and for my last question, I'm going to summarize two questions. I'm going to put them together. With respect to benzene and also methcaptan, which is, for those who don't know, is the chemical put in the gas to make it smell. And I think also to give some color to it so we can see it. With respect to that question, is there any other chemical we can use besides mercaptan that is not dangerous, because it's also a carcinogen, and mixed in with the benzene, which if it's not at levels that are dangerous, then why are we relocating so many schools, people, 3-year-olds getting sick, walking around with handkerchiefs with blood in them?
So I think it's a question for a WEHA, and I think it's important, and it might not be popular in this room, but to talk about the mercaptans, and as from your professional standpoint, how you explain whether they're toxic or not, and why the Public Health Department has allowed people or directed SoCalGas to reimburse relocation.
So I can talk a little bit about the mercaptans, the sulfur-containing compounds that were added in terms of toxicity. So we know that at very low exposures, we can, as humans, can smell them, and that it stimulates our nervous system to produce headaches and nausea. So that is an effect of the mercaptans that people have experienced around this leak.
Can we use something else?
To our knowledge, I would like to see a much more robust toxicity database on these compounds. They haven't been studied all that well, but the information that we have from the animal studies and a couple of human studies available indicates that their serious effects occur at really much, much higher exposures, like literally 10,000 times more. So people have gotten very sick who worked with the substances. There isn't any evidence that mercaptans are carcinogenic. So, you know, if you have heard things that I don't know about, I'd like to see that.
I just want to quickly point out that the reason that they use mercaptans is high stink, low toxicity. And they put it in not just here at Aliso. They put it in when they start to ship gas interstate and intrastate. The federal government actually requires that because it allows you to detect leaks anywhere along the gas system. It allows you to do it at the interstate level, but it also allows you to do it at the local level. Now, I think as OEI is saying, that you do get used to the smell. That's been a concern of ours. We actually worry that as people get used to the smell, the normal number of leaks that occur in just residential communities as a result of pipes splitting or people digging in, they won't notice it. So we've actually required the gas company to put additional gas monitors in many of the neighborhoods that have high mercaptan exposures, just because we're worried that people's noses are getting desensitized.
I will send you the information I have on that. Thank you.
Before you step down, Senator Pavlik, I think you wanted to address one of his
Just
issues.
real briefly on the safety valve question, because we got a lot, I've heard a lot about that. I have met with the head of Department of Conservation and the head of Dogger, and they agree that 300-foot requirement that's still on the books is outdated. That will be part of the legislative package. They said they're going to look at that and change that. That's an old standard. Oil and gas fields used to be out in the middle of nowhere. They should not be next to homes and schools. And so 300 feet is not acceptable. Should it be a mile? We don't know. Whatever it is, we need to make sure that we put everything in its place so this doesn't happen again. In the event that you continue to be neighbors to oil and gas fields and it doesn't get moved, we need at least the least we can do is put in safety valves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for coming and sharing information with us. A little bit about myself. I'm a resident in Porter Ranch here since the early 80s. A lot of people in here might not know, but I've taught their kids in school as well as the university here down the street for the last 27 years. The reason I'm sharing that is because this is a very knowledgeable community, as well as people standing up here all have degrees, and we all know how data and how you collect that data, you can get it to say what you want. Everybody knows that. That being said, there was a gentleman earlier standing on that side talking about the benzene. I listened this morning, too, to an independent, very educated person in the country who was talking about that the benzene is a big problem. It is a carcinogen. I'm pronouncing it wrong. It causes cancer. And the levels up here that he tested independently show it's outrageously high. In addition to that, I respect, it's hard to read here, the deputy director about who addressed that before, but it depends where you have that monitoring. It depends on where you're living on that hill, what that number's going to be, or how far down. The wind here also blows from north to south, right down this hill. Anybody who lives there knows that. And if you have a pool, you hate that, but it's true. With that being said, that's a big issue. We don't want to wind up like the people after who responded to 9/11, the people who lived in the Gulf Coast with that. People, we don't want to have where we're going to have people in years down the line, high massive cancers, people dying of this. It is a big problem. My first question is, why are there not signs posted on our wonderful trails here? Why are there not signs? Don't walk here. The air is not good. Why is there not public announcements on about that?
Are you speaking about on the trails, just regular signs posted, or as a result of this particular crisis?
Absolutely, yes. The trail's right across the street, and there's people running. There's also a community that's very into health. People are running here day and night and walking in here. I was shocked when I drove by the park the other day and saw 2 people playing. What are people doing in the park? There's no one should be up there now exposed to this. And not everybody knows is the problem. The people here are educated to know, but there's other people who come here and walk, and some people in their home are not paying attention. It's negligent if we don't educate those people and let them know that the air is not healthy and not to go outside and not to run. I'm also a triathlete, and I train, and I run that whole loop up there. I'm staying away from there. I haven't done it for months since I found out about this. When you exercise, you're pulling in more oxygen, as the science will tell you. You're increasing your rate of taking these things in.
Thank you. I don't have the answer specific tonight on the postings, but it's something that I will follow.
Maybe the folks here can have public announcements, put signs up in the community, in the neighborhood, so everybody else knows, don't go out. Try and stay out of this air. And this benzene is a major, major problem. And when you go home tonight, everybody, they're going to have it on the news again tonight. They'll show it, that scientist. I saw it this morning on the news. The second part is property taxes here. We all have paid or are going to pay our property taxes. For those who send it ahead of time, maybe the governor who's in charge of that can waive for all these zip codes the property taxes, because we're being impacted with the financials that we're putting out and our losses. I'm asking our representatives here if we could talk to the governor and waive our property tax to people in this zip code. Gentlemen, I'm asking you.
So a while ago, I actually put in a motion to reduce the property taxes here. And I spoke personally with our county assessor. The county assessor, not the governor, is the one that actually comes up with assessed values. And so I spoke with Jeff Prang. He's the county assessor. He couldn't do anything on property taxes until the governor actually declared an emergency or proclaimed an emergency. And so under that, now he could. He's put a team on it to start monitoring property values as well as costs. And so we'll be sending out information as his team has the information to send. And so as soon as we have that, we'll send it out. So that's being looked at right now.
That's good. That's the first step, but can they waive them for all these people for this year with the damage and the tremendous financial burden that these people are going through? And one final thing, and I appreciate everybody's patience. I know I waited a long time, so thank you.
Let me just say one thing real quick. The wonderful facility that we're in is being provided for us by the church, and a number of church volunteers that I got a little note that they need to move on. So let's try to keep the comments to questions. We want to make sure we get to everybody. So
I'm just about done.
Go ahead.
When we had the earthquake here, President Clinton came down, FEMA came down, we received checks in the mail. Can the governor contact the president? How do we get FEMA involved in this? How do we make this where it's going to be taken care of immediately? We didn't have to ask for checks. A check showed up in my house, and the other people who lived there in the mail. Raise your hand if you were living here at that time and received those checks. We were tremendously impacted. Some of these houses were destroyed, red tagged. The government took care of the people. Gentlemen, can you help work on that, please? And my last thing is, I want to thank everybody who took the time to come here. Everybody here is tremendously impacted. I heard someone talk about that the governor has lots of different things. It's a big state. This is the major emergency. I watch the news. I don't know of another emergency bigger than this in this state. Why is the governor not in the seat over here next to these gentlemen? We need to have, he's the top dog.
Okay, just with, in the essence of time, do you have a final question?
No, that was my final statement.
Okay.
So my question is, why is the governor not sitting here when this is the biggest catastrophe happening in this state today?
Thank you.
And the answer, I'm listening.
Let me just move on. Thank you. Ma'am.
Hi, my name is Christina Grana, and I'm a Porter Ranch resident. Back in October, at the end of October, my 15-year-old son came down with a pneumonia-like illness, and he almost died. And we rushed him to the hospital. He had to get his lungs x-rayed because he had lost the ability to breathe. He was very sick for a very long time, and at one point, we didn't know what was going on. He was getting nosebleeds. He has a jeopardized immune system, so he is, extra sensitive. He was diagnosed with chronic lung disease. How do I prove or disprove that the impact of the gas leak affected my son's physical well-being? Our family has been so stressed because he is so sick, and we have tried. It's been a month now to be relocated, and it's been a disaster trying to get relocated. It's just been a nightmare. I did notice not long ago that there are no birds in my backyard. I have a huge backyard with a beautiful view of the gas leak. There are no birds. What does that mean? Does that mean that the wildlife understands that there is poison in the air? So my biggest question is, what the hell is really going on? Because I feel like there's a lot of misinformation out there. The gas company has probably the best PR company in the world, feeding information to the people, the residents of Porter Ranch. So if the air is not toxic, why are they relocating people? Why are the birds dead? What is going on? I'm getting so much information, misinformation, things that people see and share. Even my neighbors are arguing about what is really going on, if they should leave, if they should stay. Really, what do we do? It's a simple question. What do we do? My son is still alive, thank you, God. But he's very sick. He just had a nosebleed, nose hemorrhage the other day. We finally got to stay in a hotel 20 miles away from school. But at least we're in a hotel now. And Mitch, wherever you are, Mitchell, I tried calling him several times, begging for help. Because really, it's falling on deaf ears.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you want to comment?
Well, I would just say, first of all, I can't imagine what you're going through.
It's been pretty devastating.
And it's intense to hear.
I've got your card, Mitchell. I'm sorry, you're doing a great job, but I've called you so many times, and nobody has responded to me. Nobody. All I hear is, we're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed. That's all I have heard. And I'm overwhelmed.
Right.
These people are overwhelmed. These people.
And if it's taking you that amount of time to be relocated up to a month, that's unacceptable.
Terrible.
Totally understand.
Today, I finally signed a lease on a property for my family. But let me tell you, I have suffered the consequences. Just saying.
I would say this, which is the people up here and the government don't have an incentive to do anything like a whitewash. We're not in league with SoCalGas in terms of what they're explaining. What we're trying to do is get as much information out there in as clear a way as possible, and we can do better. You hear us and we talk in technical terms. Yeah, and point taken, and we're working to do better. We've got a website, we're giving daily updates. We've tried to put a lot of the technical data analysis into language that everyday people can actually understand.
But it's conflicting. There's conflicting information, and everybody's confused. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You guys are well-educated people, but even you're stumped at times during this meeting. Some questions you can't answer. You can try to the best of your ability, but really nobody really knows what is really going on except for the gas company. And they can be protected by the spin they put on with the public relations people.
Well, I can tell you we're going to keep on trying to get smart, independent minds actually assessing the situation. That independent panel has like 10 of the top scientists from University of California, different campuses, et cetera, and they're going to put information out as transparently as possible. Now, will that not necessarily, will that create consensus among the scientific community? No, but we're trying to get as much independent information out there as possible.
You also need people who can think out of the box, creative people who are not just scientists, people who can solve problems. There are not enough problem solvers. There are scientists who are very logical and don't understand empathy or know how to solve a situation a certain way. So you need not just scientists. They're data collectors. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Sir?
Hi. Hello. My name is Matt Navak, and I've been living here since year 2000 in Porter Ranch, north of Cessnon. And by the way, nobody wants Cessnon to go all the way through. We already complain because there's street racers driving 55 miles an hour or faster, and I've seen many street races up there. Nobody in their right mind wants that to go through. So anyway, I have 3 points, 3 questions. It has to do with improvements of well technology that the senator mentioned, also health standards, and what the Air Quality Management District is discussing, and also the councilman's point regarding the filtering with relocation. With increasing standards at the last Saturday's Resources Board meeting, I heard that the gas company has had issues like this of long-term leaks in cities of Montebello, Playa del Rey, and other areas besides here. And I can tell you, like I said, I've lived here for 11 years, and I wrote down a couple of dates. Summer of 2001, October 2010, September 2013, there were significant per capita, or whatever that name is, smell in my yard. The first time it happened was only a year after I moved here, and I called the gas company. Hey, there's something wrong. There's gas at my house. You know, of course they come, they inspect. It was quite obvious it was outside. It was not my house. But I didn't notice that. I didn't put that together in 2001. In 2013, I put it together because 3 of my neighbors also smelled it. So the bullshit that this just happened back in October is just that. It's been happening for years. So my question is, and this is again something I heard on the radio today, how many wells are leaking that have been tested? I heard a number of 5. 5 wells are currently leaking. Can somebody answer that question?
I think that question's probably to me. I don't have the exact number, but I will get that for you. The number of wells out of the 115?
Let's let him answer. Let's let him answer, please. Okay, look, folks, if we want everybody to have a chance to speak, let us get to the questions, the answers that we can provide you, and so that we can move on because we have a time limit.
I absolutely understand the frustration and anger about that, but the reality is that sitting here right here today, I can't tell you which of the 115 wells is leaking, which ones are presently being reworked, but I can get that information for this body, and we can get that available.
I mean, can you confirm that in just the last couple of weeks that there has been some tests done by the agencies that are sitting up here, and there is other wells that are leaking?
I can tell you that I know that one well in particular is leaking a lot. And with regard to other wells, I would have to get back to you about what that number is. I don't have that number off.
Well, just from my personal experience, it's quite obvious, and from other of my neighbors, that this has been going on for a long time. And I'm not saying it's been leaking like it is now, of course not, but there has. And I mentioned this to the woman from the Southern California Air Quality Management District when they had the meeting at the other church a month ago, and she didn't know anything about it, and she'd asked me for these dates, so I wrote these dates down. Another question: LA County Health, the doctor that came to that meeting about a month ago. He talks about standards, the standards that are measured for the per capita and the benzene. And he's talking about what I would assume is OSHA standards, someone who works with this material for 8 hours a day. But he cannot intelligently tell me, or I'm asking you, I'm asking Dr. Marty here to tell me what research has been done regarding 24/7 exposure to infants, children, and the elderly, not 8 hours a day working in the fields.
Yeah, so the standards that we are comparing the measured levels to are not occupational standards. They're not worker standards. They're actually standards developed with the general public and sensitive subjects in mind. So they're quite a bit lower than any occupational standards. We have uncertainty factors that take into account the fact that you and I are different, and we have different body composition, different gender, different ways of metabolizing things, that infants and children can be especially susceptible. So we actually have a very low number for benzene for chronic effects on the blood-forming bone marrow. So I don't know, I wasn't at the meeting, I don't know what the LA County Health guy was saying or which numbers he was referring
Well, he
to.
kept referring to, and I took a little bit of notes, but he kept referring to workers working all day around these materials, and that they hadn't had any ill effects, and they were working for 10 odd years. Well, again, who cares? That's 8 hours a day, and that's a middle-aged person. That's not a 6-year-old kid. That's not an 11-year-old, my 11-year-old son. That's not a 2-month-old baby. I mean, come on. And it's 24/7. It's not 8 hours.
Yeah, our standards are the chronic standard is for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for a lifetime. That's
Okay.
what our standards are.
Well, I appreciate that. My last question, Councilman, I don't know where he went, but he was mentioning that even if you relocate, you can still get weatherization and filters. Apparently, the gas company doesn't agree, because I was in communication with them. They were supposed to get back to me. I had a 1 phone call tag regarding the filters. As soon as they put me in a hotel, no more phone calls. And I called them back, no more phone calls. So if they want me to relocate back to my house, don't they think they would, keep in communication? So anyway, I just wanted to tie that loop. They seem to be dropping the ball on that. Thank you.
What we've been told by the gas company and the relocation companies and air filter, they're prioritizing. So for the folks that this is what they're telling us. I don't believe half of what they told me anyway. I don't know which half to believe, but what they've said is they're prioritizing. If you've already relocated, they're trying to catch up on the weatherization and filtration systems for the ones that haven't first. That's what they're saying. So what I would suggest is, for that, there isn't a mediation or stipulated agreement where they have to do it in a certain amount of time. But at that point, keep calling, and make sure you're on that list. And if you have a problem, call my office, and we're happy to follow through.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Alona, and I'm from Granada Hills. I read article recently, and Puerto Ranch gas leak was named as a small Chernobyl, and ironically, I'm Chernobyl. Which said to me, oh, don't worry about it. Everything is fine. You just get to your house and clean everything, whatever you wear, and wash your hair. Right now, I feel the same way. My life changed. It's great community. We walk around. We outgoing people. Puerto Ranch, Granada Hills, Chatsworth, Northridge. We all have kids. We all have animals. Our life was running, jogging, I don't know. Right now, I mentally wake up every single day reading articles about that. I close my window, I cannot open it. Window according to what's happening in the air. And I don't know, I think all guys feel the same way. we became a prison in our own houses, which we got pay on it. We pay property tax on it. We pay gas company. Our I don't know if you know that, bill for water and power became thousands of dollars per 2 months, which I don't get it why I should pay for water and power thousands of dollars. And I don't know why I need to pay gas company, okay, right now. And I don't know why I was dreaming to come. The biggest reason me to come to United States, it was my dream, first of all, and second, I was scared for my kids to live in Chernobyl atmosphere. I don't know if people know what does it mean, Chernobyl. It's the biggest atomic explosion by man-made. Right now, it's a second stage in my life. I feel the same way. And who is controlling? I cannot control on this. My life is changed. And thousands of people too. And also, yeah, it's easy to say relocated. Do you ever in your entire life change countries? How easy to say relocated? Yes, I am maybe take my briefcase and relocate it. But how safe my house will be? It will stay how many months is empty? Who can?
Ma'am, let me ask you.
Yes.
Can you frame a question?
Yes. Yes, I frame, because I have a lot of questions, but people ask about property tax. My question is why I should pay property tax.
We may have answered your questions already.
Yes, but my question is right now, simple question. If people relocate it and I decided to relocate it, how safe my house will be?
Okay, so your question is what can we assure you how safe your house will be?
Yes, and for how long my house will stay empty? Right now, each look like people has their own houses. House has life because it's a people, it's a soul of people, it's a kids, he's going to school, it's a friends, everything. Right now, everything is destroyed. How?
Well, I think
answer?
that our answer to you on this issue is
Yes.
that everything is being done to stop the leak and get people as soon as possible back into the community. We want to make sure part of the effort here and all of the agencies, as well as the city and the county, and our partners at the federal government level, working to hold the gas company accountable. 2 different buckets. The first bucket is fix the problem, get it safe, and the second bucket, get you back into your homes and recover the impact, recover the costs that you have incurred. That is the objective that we want to do for you. In doing that, we have identified deficiencies. We have identified new regulations that we want to put forth, whether it's through legislation, through the governor's action, these agencies to be able to put certain regulations in place or streamline those regulations. So those are all of the aspects that are happening. I can't tell you definitively right now when you will get back into your house, but I can tell you that is the objective, is for you to get back into your home.
I understand it's a huge goal, and I understand everybody wants to meet this goal, but I'm a simple person, okay? Look like millions of people. Did you see half of the people left? Because really, you don't touch their soul. Whatever they come to you to ask a question, it's just yes, it's goal, huge goal, but everybody is my life, okay? It's my life. And I don't know how long it will take me and what I will catch you. Every time my kid got sick, I was thinking about, oh my God, it's Chernobyl. It's Chernobyl happened. Something wrong with me, I'm thinking, do you know, you cannot get out from my head. The same will be, you cannot get out from the people's head.
I think the most important way we can respond to you is acknowledge just how impactful it is to you. And I'm sure we had several hundred seats here tonight. Most people didn't actually get to talk, but my guess would be most people have stories about impacts on their life. And so one is for us to actually come here and hear that. And so that's important. So I just want to first of all acknowledge just how disruptive and impactful it is. And I think that's important for all of us to hear. I think it's also important when the leak is over for us to be able to very clearly say that the air in the community no longer has these various odorants and compounds, et cetera, because you need to feel safe moving back to your house. And that's something we're committed to doing. So when the leak is stopped, actually doing the, continuing the air quality monitoring so that you have confidence you can move back to your house and it's safe.
Look, I
Yeah, okay.
understand you. Yeah.
Ma'am, let me say, we're about 5 minutes or 6 minutes till 10 o'clock. We're going to stop at 10 because the people here need to move forward. So one question, please just make it a question, and we'll be able to try to answer that question for you so we can try to get through everybody here. Sir.
Okay, I'm Ken Piper, Dr. Ken Piper. I'm a geologist and geophysicist. I'm retired from the U.S. Department of Interior, where I worked on oil and gas stuff in the federal offshore. So I have understanding of the Dogger plumbing issues as well as the geologic issues. But what I want to know is where we can get information. My concern here is that when you kill that well, that there may still be other points of leakage. As the gentleman ahead of me here mentioned, he smells it, he's been smelling it on and off for years. And I know that after the '94 earthquake, they used a lot of the data from those wells to identify faults and fractures. All the wells, when they're drilled, they're logged. The oil companies know where the fractures intersect the wells. It's not generally public information, but in '94 it was used to help identify some of the faults that were involved in the earthquake. So that information should be available to the gas company if they don't already have it. And I was looking to see if it's available to the public. I can't find it, but I'd like to know where that is because those fractures are a likely source of leakage. For example, if the gas company was putting gas in the field at too high a pressure, it could open up some of the fractures enough for the gas to get through. So I don't know whether they were doing that. The other thing that's related to it is when those houses west of Tampa and north of Cessna were built, did the city approve that development? And did they have information from the '94 earthquake that there were fractures there that may have gone down and intersected that field, and so that may not have been a good development to put in?
Okay, let's just see if go ahead.
I'm happy to take that question, and thank you for your question. I wanted to, with regard to the other question as well, make sure this was very clear with regard to leaks and with regard to the well integrity. That is the point of the evaluation that we're going to be doing on all of the wells in the formation. With regard to the question, I'm sorry?
This is more than the wells. This is for fractures as well.
Yes, the review that we will be doing is about whether or not the wells have integrity. One of the things that we will be looking at is the tests that have been run before and the new tests that we require them to run. You're well aware of things like, I'm certain, like temperature logs, noise logs, as well as pressuring up the well, those kinds of integrity tests. Those are the kinds of things that we're going to be requiring. With regard to the well data, all of the data for the wells in the Aliso Canyon field, as well as most of the rest of the state, but all of them in the Aliso Canyon field, that is available on the Department of Conservation's website. There are PDF records that are available there. If you go to the link that is for something called Well Finder, you can search by oil and gas field. This is obviously the Aliso Canyon field. Not to get too far into the weeds, I would suggest that you sort out for gas storage wells because, as you well know, this area has oil production as well above it. But that information is available there on Well Finder.
Okay, now aside from the wells...
Sir, I'm sorry. We have one last question, folks, because we have a hard stop at 10. They have to close the church. I've got a note here. Last question, ma'am.
Yes. Hi, I'm a Granada Hills resident with 2 young children who attend schools in the hills there. I want to know who the principal of my school should contact to get the air filtration systems in each classroom.
Yeah, I'm happy to take this one on myself.
Go ahead.
Well, Richard or I, but let me just give you my email, or I can give you my card. Wade, W-A-D-E, .crowfoot @gov.ca.gov.
Whoa, @gov.ca.
Sorry, gov.ca.gov.
Okay.
Because that seems ridiculous.
That's my primary
That
concern.
seems totally ridiculous.
Okay, thank you.
One more, I implore you, one more.
Okay, last question. We want to finish by 10 o'clock. It's 9:58.
This was raised by the 6:30 evening news by Channel 5 tonight. In addition to the concerns we've all expressed so far, toxicity levels of benzene, property values, they raised the specter of a potentially even much more dire concern. As we all may know, methane is highly flammable. It's my understanding that the fix undergoing right now concerns drilling. Sparks fly. What are the potential of a spark flying and a major explosion happening?
It's a good question. So, Jason, answer this as directly and clearly as you can, because we've asked the same question.
The relief wells are approximately 1,500 feet away, and both of them have pads that are approximately 200 to 300 feet lower in elevation. They're sufficiently isolated, in our view, to keep an ignition source away from SS-25.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Folks, we're going to have to conclude tonight. Let me say thank you for coming. We're going to continue to...
Maybe what we could...
Hold on, just one. Yeah, is there a way, so this, working for Senator Pavley's office, is there a way to continue this conversation for those who don't have their questions answered, that they can submit questions to you all?
Going to get to that.
Okay.
So
we do, but the church is closing down.
We're confined by the church. We've gone an hour over, so we're going to have to...
Can we do this? Can we give an email address? And if you're asking a question tonight that you didn't have an opportunity to ask, that you can email it to us? Because, I mean, I don't know.
For Senator Pavley's staff, do you want them to email your office?
Yeah.
Wait, and actually, we people that have health questions can meet them outside, and I'll also give you our email address, but we can't get to all of you. But we will, for the health questions, give you an email address.
So let me give you a final email.
Please do air testing at
If you
Bengal
have
Elementary
questions
School.
associated with this that you did not get asked, you can email us at CALOES.ca.gov, and we will respond to your questions. We'll coordinate that and get it to all the members and get it back to you, okay? Questions, QUESTIONS, at CALOES.ca.gov. That's not what he said. The church has to close. This is coming to an end. If you want to go outside and be able to talk to us, we'll spend a few minutes with you outside. But we need to now close the church. So, thank you. Thank you.